the importation of rice by 90%, thereby saving a significant amount of money. We very much welcome increased United States investment in Nigerian economy, especially the non-oil sector. Economic relations between Nigeria and the United States are anchored on three major instruments, namely the Binational Commission, Trade and Investment Framework Agreement, and the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act. The Binational Commission in particular, comprising bilateral, political, economic, developmental, and humanitarian partnership, is a basic economic framework for engagement between our two countries. Nigeria's trade volume with the United States stood at $6.07 billion United States dollars according to 2016 statistics, and comprised $4.76 billion United States dollars worth of Nigerian export to the United States and $1.894 billion United States dollars exports to Nigeria. We urge greater effort to increase these figures substantially. We thank the United States government very much for cooperation we have received in our effort to recover stolen funds. Our two governments have put the machinery in place for their respective attorney generals to collaborate in ensuring the return to Nigeria of over 500 million United States dollars of looted funds siphoned away in banks around the world. In this connection, we congratulate the United States government on launching a Kleptocracy Asset Recovery Initiative, which was spearheaded by the United States Department of Justice Asset Forfeiture and Money Laundering. We hope that we could continue to count on United States support in this area. The government of Nigeria remains deeply committed to the principles of human rights as well as promotion and protection of people's freedom, even in the process of fighting terror. We commit to ensure that all documented cases of human rights abuses are investigated and those responsible for violation held responsible. I thank you very much for listening.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Steve Miller of the Washington Times, please. Washington Times. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. President. Got a two-parter on immigration. Last week, the whole case would go away. I was wondering if you would
I don't think it would, number one, and there's no reason to apologize. Our immigration laws in this country are a total disaster. They're laughed at all over the world. They're laughed at for their stupidity, and we have to have strong immigration laws. So I think if I apologize, it wouldn't make 10 cents worth of difference to them. There's nothing to apologize for. We have to have strong immigration laws to protect our country.
And looking to the future, the caravan has arrived at the U.S.
We've been watching it. We've been watching it.
And I'm just wondering, in your opinion, or your estimation, what percentage of those people do you believe are deserving of asylum in the U.S.?
Well, I won't get into percentages, but we are a nation of laws. We have to have borders. We don't have borders, we don't have a country. And I've been watching for weeks as the caravan came up. And, you know, the Mexican laws are very tough on immigration, extremely tough. And it started out with way over 1,000 people. I guess now it's down to about 100 going all through Mexico. People don't realize what a big country Mexico is. But it came down by a lot. And now we're working on the border with the worst laws any country, no matter where you go, all over the world. They can't even believe it. And we're doing the best we can with it. But we have to have changes in Congress, and we have to have it quickly. We need a wall, number one. And you see that right now, you know, where they are, even though it's not a particularly good wall, and even though a small percentage can climb to the top, they have to be in extremely good shape. But a small percentage can climb that particular wall. We have a wall that's much more difficult. But if you didn't have that, you'd have thousands of people just pouring into our country. You got to have a wall. And we need border security. and we will have border security. As you know, we're sending many, many National Guardsmen down to the border. Most of them are already there, and that's having a big impact. But we need a change in the law. Catch and release is ridiculous. If they touch our property, if they touch our country, essentially you catch them and you release them into our country. That's not acceptable to anybody. So we need a change in the law.
Mr. President, when you were sitting down in the Oval Office with President Trump, who ran on not wanting to be the policeman for the world, what kind of arguments did you make to convince him to continue a military presence for the U.S. in your country, and what arguments did you make to him? How receptive was he?
I can't understand what you mean by United States presence in my country. They send a training team based on their experiences to train our officers at some of our training institutions and move to the crisis area to see how those they train are performing. I think this is one of the best things the United States could do for us to stabilize the country.
And he agreed with that?
I do, very much so. That's why I thank him for it.
Thank you.
Well, we more and more are, because it's a very fair question, we more and more are not wanting to be the policeman of the world. And we're spending tremendous amounts of money for decades on policing the world, and that shouldn't be our priority. We want to police ourselves, and we want to rebuild our country. And the president understands that, and they've come a long way. They're doing a great job. We're contributing to that job, but they have done a great job. What we do want to do, though, is open Nigeria and other countries up to trade, because we have spent over the last decade a number that's so large you wouldn't even believe it. And I think we'll be treated in a reciprocal fashion now, as of today. So I think that's going to happen. And I have great respect for the president, okay? How about Jordan Fabian? Where's Jordan? Jordan, the Hill?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to ask you about Iran. The Israeli Prime Minister just gave a speech very critical of their nuclear program. I want to ask if you have made up your mind to pull out of that deal, and if you do pull out of that deal, are you worried that sends the wrong message to North Korea as you seek to enter nuclear talks with Kim Jong-un?
No, I think it sends the right message. You know, in 7 years, that deal will have expired, and Iran is free to go ahead and create nuclear weapons. That's not acceptable. 7 years is tomorrow. That's not acceptable. So, no, if anything, it's proven right what Israel has done today with the news conference. And Prime Minister Netanyahu just gave a very, I don't know if everybody's seen it, but I got to see a little bit of it. And that is just not an acceptable situation. And I've been saying that's happening. They're not sitting back idly. They're setting off missiles, which they say are for television purposes. I don't think so. So we'll see what happens. I'm not telling you what I'm doing, but a lot of people think they know. And on or before the 12th, we'll make a decision. That doesn't mean we won't negotiate a real agreement. You know, this is an agreement that wasn't approved by too many people. And it's a horrible agreement for the United States, including the fact, Mr. President, that we gave Iran $150 billion and $1.8 billion in cash. Nigeria would like some of that. $1.8 billion in cash and $150 billion. You know what we got? We got nothing. We got nothing. So that doesn't mean I wouldn't negotiate a new agreement. We'll see what happens. But I think, if anything, what's happening today and what's happened over the last little while and what we've learned has really shown that I've been 100% right.
And President Buhari, I want to ask you, you're the first leader from sub-Saharan Africa to visit President Trump here at the White House. Did you address his reported comments from earlier this year when he reportedly used vulgar language to describe African nations?
Well, I'm very careful with what the press says about others and myself. I'm not sure about, the validity or whether that allegation against the president was true or not. So the best thing for me is to keep quiet.
We didn't discuss it. And you do have some countries that are in very bad shape and very tough places to live in. But we didn't discuss it because the president knows me and he knows where I'm coming from, and I appreciate that. We did not discuss it. Mr. President, you can ask a question.
Yes, that lady is already up. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Juliana. Mr. President Trump, I would like to know, Nigeria is in their need of the Tucano aircraft to tackle the problem back home. Will you be kind enough to release at least 2 before 2020 to enable the country tackle the situation in the country? And how soon will you be visiting Nigeria?
Well, I would like to visit Nigeria. I'd like very much to visit Nigeria. It's an amazing country, and in certain ways, I hear from the standpoint of the beauty of a country, there's no country more beautiful. So I would like to. And the first part of your question, I couldn't hear what you were saying. Go ahead.
The helicopters.
Oh, helicopters.
Yes.
Oh, we love helicopters. He likes them more than I do. He likes buying helicopters, but he is, and they're buying a lot of helicopters. Helicopters.
We want to know how soon
Very
you're
soon.
releasing them to the country.
Yes, very soon. We're getting it approved. Part of the problem was that you weren't allowed to buy helicopters in our country, and now you are. I worked that out so that now you can buy the helicopters that you want. They weren't allowed to buy the helicopters in our country for various reasons, which frankly were not good reasons. But now they get them, and they get them very quickly, and they are the best helicopters anywhere in the world. We make the best military equipment in the world, and our friends can now buy that equipment. Mr. President?
Thank you very much.
Do you have a question for the President?
President Trump, my question to President Trump.
Thank you.
The fight against corruption is one of the major achievements that the Nigerian government has presented to the world. And the records show that United States of America is one of the major destination countries of illicit funds and assets from Nigeria. To what extent did you discuss the need to repatriate these funds back to Nigeria to fund critical infrastructure, to cut down funding for terrorism, and also to reduce illegal immigration from Nigeria to your country?
Yes, we have actually discussed all of those topics at length over the last period of time. And in terms of corruption, Nigeria has a reputation, as you understand very well, for very massive corruption. I also know that the president has been able to cut that down very substantially. We talked about it. He is working on it, and they have made a lot of progress, and I think they will continue to make a lot of progress. We have a lot of people in this country, and frankly, the country itself, that invests in Nigeria. So cutting down on that corruption element and a corrupt element is very important to us. And the president will be able to do that. President
Buhari. To President Buhari, the United States import of crude oil from Nigeria has considerably gone down. Did you discuss the need for the U.S. to increase its import of crude oil from Nigeria?
No, I can't tell the United States what to do. But luckily for us, we have got market for our crude oil elsewhere. But the progress made by the United States in technology is certainly frightening for us that are a mono economy. I hope technology will allow them to use our crude for its quality for petrochemicals, be it light one vis-a-vis the one they are getting from shale. Thank you.
I think maybe more than anything else, what we discussed today was our agricultural products going into Nigeria, which Nigeria wants, but we have certain barriers that don't allow that to happen. So for the good of our farmers, U.S. farmers, and for the good of Nigeria and all of Africa, it's very important that we are able to sell our great agricultural products into Nigeria, and that will happen, and we're going to be working on that right away, okay? Thank you all very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. It's possible. It's very possible. Well, it was an interesting thought, and I had that thought. We're looking at various countries, including Singapore, And we are also talking about the possibility of the DMZ, Peace House, Freedom House. And there's something that I thought was intriguing. I think that some people maybe don't like the look of that, and some people like it very much. I threw it out today as an idea. I also told President Moon, and through President Moon, we connected with North Korea. There's something that I like about it because you're there. You're actually there, where if things work out, there's a great celebration to be had on the site, not in a third-party country. So we are looking at the possibility of doing it in that location. We're also looking at various other countries, including Singapore. I will say this, the good news, everybody wants us. It has the chance to be a big event. And the United States, I was talking to John Bolton about this a little while ago. The United States has never been closer to potentially having something happen with respect to the Korean Peninsula that can get rid of the nuclear weapons, can create so many good things, so many positive things, and peace and safety for the world. So we'll see what happens. You know, I often say, who knows? Who knows? Maybe a lot of things change, but Kim Jong-un, who has been very open and very straightforward so far, I can only say again, so far, but he's talking about getting rid of the site, which was their big site. He's talking about no research, no launching of ballistic missiles, no nuclear testing. And he has lived up to that for a long period of time, longer period of time than anybody has seen. So we are looking at that as a potential site. Yes, I think it would be very interesting. I think it would be a great celebration if it works out well. And if it doesn't work out well, that's the way it goes.
Are you still confident the summit will happen? Is there anything that...
Oh, yeah, I think the summit is going to happen. They very much want it. We certainly would like to see it. I think the summit will happen. And personally, I think it's going to be a success, but we'll see. I will say this. If it's not a success, got to get rid of the nuclear weapons. If it's not a success, I will respectfully leave. It's very simple. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Why do